All right, let's do a little Instagram thing.
Okay.
Let's just see how it flows.
Hi, Instagram. We're seeing how this flows. I'm Anthony with Wooden Plane, co-host of the Splinters N Stuff podcast. And this is...
It's got to be more attention grabbing in the beginning.
Oh.
You got to think Instagram reel. You
Okay.
got to be like, all right, folks, great news. Your two favorite podcast hosts are back, and we're on video.
4 to 5 podcast hosts don't want you to know this. Is that a good...
Yeah.
I see that one. Or the government's hiding this from you. Splinters N Stuff podcast. They don't want you to hear what we have to say.
Yeah, we've been shadow banned the last several weeks.
Yeah, it's because we're coming out with truth bombs.
Yep, but now we're coming out with video. So here we are. We're going to resume our normal podcast shenanigans.
Yeah.
You're just going to be able to watch it instead of only listen to it. You'll still be able to listen to it at all the podcast platforms that you were listening before on, but we will now be on video on YouTube as well, and
Correct.
we will have nice little video clips to share with y'all about woodworking and
Other things.
business.
Oh,
and
business. Siege weapons.
And
Very light politics on the
Yeah.
recording.
satirical politics.
Satirical politics. I shouldn't have said that. That'll turn some people off.
Satirical politics.
Star Wars, probably.
If there is politics, you get an argument from both sides.
Correct. Not
very-
the sides you
Not
expect.
far on both sides, but we're either side of center on most things, I think.
Yeah, I think we take sides that don't exist. So that's good.
That's true.
Yeah, we're on opposite sides but neither of. There's no one in our camps.
I like that we're calling devil's advocate now steelman,
That's new.
because it's the same thing. But I'm going to steelman this argument. I'm going to steelman this side. You're playing devil's advocate. But steelman does sound cooler.
Woodworking.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll chop that up.
Yeah.
I think we could just leave this in the podcast, though.
Yeah, I think
but
so.
we'll chop that up and make a little Instagram reel out of it. It'll go viral. We'll gain huge traction. We'll get tons of money in, and we're really just gonna up the game.
Yeah. If you're listening to this and you can't see us, remember you have 2 ears and 2 eyes, so you should be looking as much as you're listening.
Yeah.
So check it out with the video. I'm gonna do something just for the video people right now, and you won't know until you.
have no idea
You'll have
what he
no
just
idea
did. You missed
until you look it up. It was worth it, I'd say.
You might get us our first strike.
It's possible.
We will be on a strike system on YouTube now.
Interesting. We just get 3 strikes
I
on the
think
first
we're-
video.
I think
Someone's
we're
just,
probably good.
screw these
We're not
guys.
making enough waves to upset anybody.
We'll just take brand new positions on hot topics. The Earth is octagonal.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well. Anyways, we just do an hour of Instagram and video plugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Or
right, so we can talk about one of two things today.
Mhm.
We can talk about the fact that Mexico is putting out
Aliens.
media around real
Aliens.
fake aliens. I think it's like pretty much a hoax. Is what I've seen from several people. Or we can talk about the balance of actual hands-on shop time versus administrative time, i.e. running quotes, ordering materials, emailing people back, learning how to do stuff, watching your YouTube stuff, all your screen time.
as the
Early on, as you transition from a hobby to a business. I'm going to let you decide how we're going to start this.
as they said in early Domino's or Pizza Hut commercials in the 90s, and I'll quote Deion Sanders. Why not both?
Coach Brown?
Yes.
All right.
Well, we can start with
Mexico.
That's not what I was going to go for. We can. No, I want to lead into. I want to see there's a natural
See if we get there.
segue.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
even
been on my mind.
even if we don't get to it, it's been got to.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
That's fine.
Okay, so I have found that throughout this journey, the way I block my time is very different. In fact, the way that I actually even say block my time is a new thing.
I think even before you even get to blocking your time, it's not kind of talking to the hobbyist here. It's it doesn't really register. I mean, you know that there's going to be other things other than building furniture, or cabinets, or woodworking, whatever your product is. You know that there's going to be other things that you have to do, but I don't think anybody ever gets a good understanding of it until you're in action, until you're in production, and you're actually doing this stuff for, several orders at a time and things like that. When you first start out, at least when I first started out, I was just really pumped. I was like, okay, I was gunning towards full time. So the timeline's a little messed up in this conversation, but to make the point, when I went full time, I was like, all right, I've got all day, every day to be in the shop.
Right.
There's plenty of time to run quotes. There's plenty of time to order stuff. That's no big deal. I'll do it when I sit down for lunch. I'll do it when I sit down and take a break. But I'm just going to be in the shop all day, every day. That's what I was really excited about. That's what I wanted to do. That's the dream, right? To do what you love all day long. But then you quickly realize that, okay, this stuff is taking a little bit more of your bandwidth than you expected. And there's ways to really narrow that bandwidth down on what's required there. We've talked several times about how we'll sit on an email reply. If you've got to get back with a client with a quote or just answer their question, or you've left it open and said, well, let me go do a little digging, see what I can find on that and get back to you, whatever it is, any correspondence. We all seem, at least everybody I've talked to about this, seems to have this natural tendency to put that off. You don't necessarily want to put down what you're working on and jump over and do that. So you kind of back pocket it. All right, well, when I sit down before I go home or before I go inside or whatever your situation is, I'm going to take care of that. You get done with your day. You've forgotten about that task. This happens over and over again. You forgot to order something you needed. You finally get on to order it. It turns out it's got a longer lead time than you thought. Turns out it's not available and you need to pivot. Whatever it is. And that's, for somebody who's unorganized like me, just kind of by nature, that's something that I've really wrestled with, honestly, this whole time. I still do it. But what I really like to do is focus on, and I do this a lot, but I don't do this a lot. So, but what I like to do is take my first hour or so in the shop and do all that stuff. Get my materials ordered that I know I need to order. Okay, I need grommets for this to pass some cables through. Let me go ahead and get on Amazon, get those ordered. Okay, I'm running low on, I really don't have screws, but running low on glue, order glue or just go pick it up. All that administrative stuff. So I think it's a good idea to block off like your first hour of every day to be sitting there at your desk or in front of your computer and go through that stuff. It's not fun. It's obviously less fun than being in the shop. A lot of times that requires as much or more thinking as it does in the shop. You're having to call other people. I know some people get like phone anxiety and stuff like that, which I still do a little bit if I'm calling somebody about something I have no idea about. If I'm calling a new supplier and I don't know how their system works, or if I'm calling around trying to find a weird material that I can't find, I anticipate a lot of dead ends, and maybe you called the wrong person, or maybe that company doesn't even offer that, or there's a lot of that. So the phone anxiety is like a real thing. That's like, I need to figure this out, but I don't want to make those phone calls. I just don't want to get on the phone and do that. And a lot of that stuff you just have to override. But I wanted to talk about kind of how we figured out how to handle that stuff early on, how we're doing it now. Early on, I didn't have any. I just was all over the place. And then now I have a little bit better handle on it just because I have a little bit more discipline about, okay, I just have to go ahead and do that. Even going to Amazon and hitting buy it now on something. You'll think about it. Like I said, you'll carry on with your day and then it won't happen. So every day that you don't order it is a day later you're going to receive it. So figure out a system that works for you, that keeps you on top of that stuff, because there's nothing as bad as getting a project done, deliveries in 2 days, tomorrow is the day you finish it, go to Home Depot to get whatever finish you want, or go to your finished cabinet to pull your finish out, only to realize that the top was left off and it's not good anymore. Home Depot doesn't have any. You just flat out don't have any. You thought there was a can in there that's not. keep from that happening. And I feel like you've got a better handle on this than me.
I feel like
So
you've had a lot of
maybe-
thoughts about this on the drive over here today.
Yeah, it popped in my head on the drive home. That's really all I had. So wanted to get all that out.
You let it all out. I
Yeah.
was like, is this man gonna take a breath?
Yeah. I'm also feeling really good, right? I'm energized.
That's
I'm feeling
good.
good. I'm back in the shop doing furniture. I'm on a normal schedule. I'm working out in the mornings instead of going straight to the tiny homes and working on those. So I'm a little jazzed up this week, which is good. It's a welcome change from the last month that I've just been dead most of the time.
Well, I think you made a lot of good points. We'll probably have to come back and break those up into some more bite-sized pieces, but I think
just let it run.
Just let it run. I think it's important to know that obviously certain things have to get done. Like you said, when you're the hobbyist, it's a lot smaller scale. I'm going to run quotes. I'm going to buy materials. I'm going to build stuff. I'm going to deliver stuff. Those seem kind of like the major buckets, right? And at that point, when you're starting off, at least for me and you, it seems like there was a lot of, I've got all the time that I'm not sleeping to do all these things. And for a while, it seems like you end up using all the time you're not sleeping to do those things. Well, that's just work stuff. And then you have to factor in the other buckets of personal stuff. Like I do need sleep. I need to eat. I need to shower, exercise, be a partner to my significant other, be a friend to my friends, be a family member to my family, and all these different things that require a lot of your time. And so I found that pretty quickly. I felt like I could feel the pull from all these different buckets saying, I need attention, I need attention, I need attention. Whether it's like the shop saying, come build something in me, or Home Depot, come buy something at me, you know? And so that was kind of a struggle for me, was to figure out how to effectively split that time up. So I do think that it's important to find time that works for you. If it's the morning, I think that makes a lot of sense. For me, I usually use the morning a little bit to kind of gear up. But I typically break it up a little bit more. And it's still something that I'm working on. I found that recognizing what those blocks are and at least making a plan for the day worked a lot. It worked very well. There was this, it's like the Benjamin Franklin style or Thomas Jefferson style daily planner. Have you seen these?
No.
So basically what it does
Never
is
had a planner though. I don't think I'm a planner person.
So I recommend starting with, for me it was really good because I'm very much I'll figure out how to get this done before the day is over kind of person.
Ooh, also, now that we're recording on Thursdays, I'm going to be boozing a little bit.
Nice.
So if we could bring back the drink bell. And
we've got a drink bell somewhere in here. I'll find it. No.
If you ever would like to join me, you're welcome.
I would. I'm trying to cut a few LBs before a wedding. Instead of all I'm doing is putting them on. It is what it feels like. So that's fantastic. It's going well for me. I feel big. So that's not good or bad. Just
I'm trying and not to be the douchebag. It's like I couldn't gain weight if I wanted to, because I hate when people say that. Mm-hmm. But particularly just the last few weeks that I've been working on the tiny homes outside in the blistering Alabama, Tennessee heat.
Getting cut.
Yeah. I've been eating a ton because I am trying to put on a little weight. But I've been just sweating my ass off and going up and down a ladder more than 50 times a day. And running a nail gun and hauling walls and sheathing, and
you're getting after it.
I was eating a ton. I wasn't exercising because I was just working.
Yeah,
and still not putting on weight. But now it's starting to come on. Now that I'm using a little less calories and still eating as much.
Well, that's good. You can have some of mine.
You could come over and work on the tiny homes for a couple weeks.
Too busy over here.
They need some siding, they need some windows, and they need some roofs.
I can probably give you a day at some point. We'll offline that, but we should plan time for that.
We should.
So what I started doing was this kind of simple time blocking exercise. It was one of the founding fathers probably Ben Franklin, had this kind of method of breaking the day up into bite-sized chunks. And you don't start with you can list all the hours of the day and be like, what am I going to do for each of these hours? But it starts off with kind of an exercise of what are all the things that I would like to get done today? Make a list of all of those things, and then pick one or two or three, like these are the top 3 priorities that have to get done today, or that I would really like to get done today the most. And then maybe what is one thing that has to get done today for today to be successful, right? and
Yeah,
recognizing
like if I go home and this one thing is not done, I'm going to be upset.
I'm gonna be upset, right? And then that's kind of a easy guide of saying I had 10 things. I've now shortened it to 3 things. Now there's one thing that I need to get done. Okay, well, then it's pretty obvious. Where do I put that one thing that needs to get done? And it can be any part of your day. And then I can build the other things. And what I found is I was doing this, but I was just lining these things up back to back to back to back to back. Oh, from 8 to 9 I do this, from 9 to 10 I do this, from 10 to 11 I do this. Well, the world doesn't work that way. There's other things that need your attention, like, nature calls, or you like, oh, I do need to eat at some point today.
Or change your oil.
Change your oil, whatever it might be.
That would probably fall into the list.
Right. But there's little things like that. So what I found was it was a good kind of practice to get me to recognize how to block my time, become more accurate at estimating my time, and better at like buffering my time. That's a big thing of just leaving white space in your calendar for things to overflow. We talk about like,
I think that's both of those things you just said are the asterisk is you're going to be estimating time for these tasks. You can't plan tasks without estimating time for these tasks. You're never going to be right. And that's okay. It just in the shop, particularly in a hobby setting, but somebody that's not been in the shop for a long time. I mean, we've been doing it for a few years now, and I still can't accurately estimate a task or a project because I don't know how I'm going to feel.
Yeah.
There are certain things that I'll do something and look at it and go, that's fine. That is totally up to quality standards. It's good. I'm not going to spend any more time on that. It looks great. If I chose to mess with it, I would be being anal.
Yeah.
And nobody would ever care.
Right.
Some days I'll look at that item and take that approach. Some days I'll look at that item and go, no, I'm not happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's trivial, but I am going to go back and correct that, or I am going to finesse that a little bit more. I just don't know how I'm going to be, and that's just one example. So it's almost impossible to know how long it's going to take me to do a task.
Yeah.
When you're talking about, okay, a tabletop, full day, 8 hours. Okay, that's easier. But when you're breaking your day down into hours or quarters of the day or just half day, between here and lunch and between lunch and going home, it's just hard to hit that nail on the head. And the way around that is that buffer point.
Yeah, those buffer points are good. And then also just knowing stuff like you said, like the tabletop's going to take about a full day. Okay, well then I better not, I can set the expectation for myself that I'm not going to do anything else other than that today. And if I get done early with it, cool. I have more time that I can go home and hang out, or I can go check off some other things that are on the list, or I can, get into the minutia of the detail on this table and really knock this one out of the park, whatever you want to do. Days where you have a bunch of stuff to do, it's sometimes I would say like, okay, that one thing I need to get done, that makes sense for me to I need to run a quote. I need to get that out today. I'm going to get that done first thing in the morning at 8:30 until it should take me an hour. So I'm just going to say 8:30 till 10. I'm going to run this quote. And then up until lunch, I've got time to take care of other tasks. Let me go put a couple in there. And if I get these done, great. And if I don't, they can get done tomorrow and it rolls over. And so you don't need to necessarily be super specific with all your times, but I would say the earlier you start trying to estimate and messing up and figuring out how long things really take, it gives you a much bigger appreciation for where your time is going. And really,
for sure.
And I've even done the exercise of a standard week, break down I did this a couple months ago at this group that I'm in to say in a standard week, how many hours am I spending commuting to clients' houses? How many hours am I running quotes? How many hours am I actually building cabinets? I've got, how many hours do I work? I work 40 to 50 hours a week. We'll just call it 40. Okay. So really break it up and see here's the biggest time suck, right? Is that where should be spending my time? I look at the numbers and I go, I'm coming up with 80 hours. I must have no idea what I'm talking about because I can't do all these things.
Yeah. Or maybe you are working 80
or maybe you are
weeks.
working 80 hour weeks. Yeah. And you're not really considering it, and certainly I would say that there's times where I'm running an extra quote on a weekend or something like that just to knock it out. And so I would say becoming familiar with time and planning is kind of one of those things that if you're wanting to take that transition from hobby to self-employment and business is really important, because when you're a hobbyist, people seem pretty okay with just waiting. You know, how long is this going to take? I don't know, a month or so. And they go, great. a month or so works for me.
Yeah, you do get a little more leeway, and don't be afraid to tell somebody. You don't have to put up a facade that this is your full-time gig if it's not.
Right.
If it's not, you can tell them that. Generally, they're going to know who you are by way of family, friends, or referrals or whatever at that point, because you're just not out there enough to be getting Google business. But even if you are, it's okay to say this is not my full-time gig. I'm working on this in the evenings and the weekends when I can.
Yep.
So it's hard for me to give you an accurate estimation. Maybe early November, you could expect it. I'll keep you updated as I know, but just with the nature of the work and the fact that it's my hobby, it's my monetized hobby, you're going to get good quality. You're going to get the best of my abilities, but I don't know how long it's going to take.
Yeah, there was a while that I think I was telling people something along the order of, this is pretty early on, but it was along the order of like, you're like fourth in line, and I probably won't get to your thing for about 12 weeks-ish. When you move up in line, I'll let you know. Right. And so, that's kind of, I'm floating around here, but like, yeah, it's a nights and weekends thing. There's days where I don't have the time to do it because I'm busy with my day job, or there's days that I'm not going to do it because I'm like, I just don't feel like it that day, right? Whatever it might be.
And on that note, you can lean on social media if you are one of those. I'm active on Instagram. I make at least a story almost every day. And the people, my clients, I'll tell them like, hey, I'll keep you posted. I'll let you know when I'm getting started. I'll be sending you some pictures and videos and stuff, but I'm also going to be posting on my social media. Yeah. And most of my clients track my social media a little bit.
Sure.
So if they know that their project is started, yeah, they're going to be pulling that up once, twice a day and seeing, hey, did he post any movement?
Yeah.
And that's a good way to keep them apprised as well. That's a really tool function that I use social media for a lot, because different conversation, but that does add a lot of value to your client if they can hop on and see it almost live.
Yeah.
Almost live progress, even if it's just a couple of pictures on your story that says, today I put a mock-up of the chair that I'm fixing to build a set of chairs, and I did the mock-up to make sure it would be comfortable. So I posted that on my story. I know that that client's watching my Instagram.
Right.
I did send her the picture as well, but I know that they're kind of watching to see what's going on, so that keeps them up to date. So that can be a really good tool, because it's kind of a two birds, one stone thing. Mm-hmm. You're getting your post out, but also you don't have to start another correspondence with that client. You just did it. You just did two things in one.
Yeah, and so I think that's a great way of keeping them in the loop. But I would say as you transition from hobby towards self-employment or business, deadlines do matter more, and not just with the clients. So there's two parts to this, I guess. There's the client side of why it matters, which is they have a thing that they want, and they want or need it, or you've told them they'll have it by a certain date. If you're the guy who's always late, that's going to cause problems for you and your business. It might be a business that's opening up that needs a fancy table in their hotel lobby, right? They're opening up in 3 months. If that table's there in 4 months, well, that doesn't help them with showing off that they have a photographer booked for photos of the hotel.
Even before you get to that point,
yeah.
If you're dragging ass on correspondence in any profession,
yeah,
you will lose jobs. I'm meeting an electrician for the tiny homes Sunday. There was another guy I was going to go with. A guy I know. Wouldn't say I grew up with him, went to school with him, but I called him 3 times, no voicemail box full. Got on, sent an email, no reply. Okay. And that's more of a shot than most people are going to give you.
Yeah.
They're going to call you once. And if they can't leave a message, well, they're just moving to the next guy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going with him.
Right.
I asked my buddy who works at the power company. I said, hey, you got a reference for this? He knows what I'm doing. I said, somebody that would be good for this kind of thing. He sent me a number, called the guy, answered, had a conversation, went through it. Let me get home, look at my schedule, call you back tomorrow. He called me back tomorrow. He's the guy. He's got the job.
Right.
Just because the other guy didn't answer the phone.
Yeah, I mean, being good with your time.
You have to be really careful of that, too. And anytime I kind of table a phone call and I'll call him back, or I get a voicemail when I'm not with my phone, and don't respond immediately, it is in my head that they're calling other people. They're getting other bids for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so being good with your time isn't just important in like the finishing of the job. It's important all the way through, but it's also the other side of that isn't just important to the client because they have a thing that they want by a certain date. It's also important to you running a business because if you can't get work done in a certain standard schedule, your money's not coming in on a certain standard schedule. And that's something that I kind of, I guess, learned the hard way to a certain degree of just before it was, I'm rushing to get it done because honestly, the shame and embarrassment of being late with a project drove me insane.
It's rarely the financial, like if I'm out of money, okay, I've been out of money a lot. Like I always seem to figure it out.
Sure.
So it doesn't weigh as heavily on me as the sheer, I told this person they would have this 3 weeks ago and I just started 3 days ago.
Right.
Now I'm already like freaking out.
And you really need to, it's hard. And I've transitioned over the last year to really be like, I need to get this done by this date because my business needs this done by this date. Not because I don't even, if they get it early or late, like it is what it is. That bothers me less. Not that it doesn't bother me, but it's just, I've prioritized my deadlines to my business versus to my client. Obviously it's still important. We pick dates that we can achieve, and I've done a lot of work to make sure that we can hit those dates and be consistent with it. And that's part of the reason I think the business has been doing better and growing. But it's also part of that also comes back to me is the fact that we've been able to deliver on time when we say we are, means I can count on checks coming in. I've improved my cash flow. So yeah, I mean, really, really understanding where your time goes and where it's where you're being underutilized in that time or overutilized in that time really starts to make a big difference. So using that like Ben Franklin style planner, really, I used that. And then I started actually using like a calendar planner that helped a lot too.
I don't have a planner, but it did strike a chord when you were talking about like I need to get these 4 things done today. Mm-hmm. I do that. I think about that. When usually it's just on my way to the shop. I'm not writing anything down. I'm not going back and referencing it, but in my head, I'm going, okay, today I want to get all the lumber milled. I want to get these glue ups done for these components. And then I want to get this assembly into clamps. Mm-hmm. I want to do all that today. If I do all that, today's a good day. Mm-hmm. I do that in my head. Like I said, I don't put it on paper, but just to kind of give you the nod on that note, I find myself doing that without even.
I think I've got an extra one of those
to do it.
They sell them like pads. Also, I should send you home with one just so you can see it and then be like, I should use that one day, and then never do it.
Yeah. Kind of like that sketchbook you got me.
That's true. It's just one drawing a day.
God, I think it's because I don't like the first page.
Tear it out.
But
have you thought about it?
But then it's not like.
That's your own artist reaction to it. Just tear out the first page and move on.
Yeah. Then I'm not going to like the second page.
Then tear it out and move
on.
But
if I give myself that ability, then I'm just going to flip through and pick and choose the ones I like. And that kind of defeats the whole purpose.
Maybe you draw 3 really nice things by the end of it,
Maybe.
Out
of 365.
3 is still pretty, it's more than 0.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
That's true. But I found that also doing that planning for the day is better the evening before than the morning of, at least for me. When I'm wrapping up for the day and I've kind of seen what I've gotten done, I'm kind of still in it and I have a good idea of like what things were accomplished, what things weren't accomplished, how long things are taking. And so I found that when I made that list,
ding,
and ding dong, when I made that list the evening before, kind of when I'm wrapping up, it was a good little exercise and kind of a good wind down for the day too. And then it's kind of somewhat prep for me in the morning. I show up in the morning and it's just kind of already there. And I go, oh, okay. All I have to do is execute. Here's my list of stuff to do. Take a look. Does this still seem right? Or did I wake up thinking, oh shoot, I forgot about this thing? Add to the list or take off the list. And that was helpful. And then I stuck with that for a while until it became a little more natural for me. And then I kind of got away from doing it, honestly, when we moved over here because I put those pads in a box and just didn't take them back out for months.
Yeah. And mine is, and I've just kind of settled into it because I've got a good 35, 40 minute commute. And most days that commute is I've already woken up. I've
Yeah.
already worked out. I've had my shake. I'm feeling good. I'm awake. I'm ready. Like I'm already well into the day.
Yeah.
By the time I'm driving into the shop, so my mind is switched on and clear.
Yeah.
And that's really the time that, you know, sometimes there's podcasts and audiobooks that take up all my mental bandwidth on the way to the shop. But most days I'm able to just think through all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really have like a sit down at my computer in the afternoon. I do it in the morning. I'll do some stuff when I sit down to eat lunch. And after that, I'm kind of in the shop until I'm ready to leave.
Yeah.
I might send an email or two before I go home, but I don't get much screen time. I don't get much computer time. So I don't have much sit down and plan time, just the way that my days have kind of naturally structured themselves. Mm-hmm. So that commute on the way in is really nice. Now, if we're talking to hobbyists, generally you don't have a commute to your shop.
That walk to your garage
is
real far.
Right.
Yeah, and the other
but it's good to not do it. My point there was don't do it like right when you within an hour of waking up, because we're just not 100% at that point. But if you're already, you want to be good and ready. When you sit down to plan, it should not be passive. You should be really sitting down and thinking about it.
Yeah. Another thing that's helped is my whiteboard. And I say that I don't use that daily planner, but we kind of have transitioned to it on the whiteboard. Outside of this office in the shop is a big whiteboard, and I've got this top row that's kind of got our process of like.
Do you touch that whiteboard several times
daily.
a week? Daily?
Multiple times a day. Yeah. And so on the top row of that is kind of where each project is in our process. Of like, is this a potential, like someone reaches out to me, I need to get better. I miss a few of them here and there, and that's a problem too. I'll get emails in. When I get an email in, I I flag it, or does it fly?
Or just don't read it.
Or just ignore it completely.
I'll pull it up on my phone, and you don't get a whole lot of the message body on your phone screen. So if I can't get a good idea, but I don't want to open it up because I don't want to risk losing it to my read messages. So then I'll get on my computer and look, and you can see more of that body. Yeah. And kind of see if this is this a real thing, or is this something I don't want to spend any time on.
I get in the habit of flagging it.
And you can flag them.
So I have my email set up. I flag it. I actually, if it comes from my website, I have an auto filter in my email, so it goes to its own organized thing for client submissions.
Mine just have a very unique subject line from my request form, so I know which ones those are, but same
yeah
idea.
And then I also click move back to unread. If I've looked at it on my phone, like I just move it back to unread, so I get my computer. But we put those things like potential client, working an estimate, working proposal, they've paid their deposit, it's in the shop, it's in work, it's moving towards delivery, we need follow-up. Those names kind of move throughout the whiteboard.
I keep that list on my whiteboards in the office, but that doesn't move on a daily basis.
No, that doesn't move on a daily basis. So under that, my next row is I have stuff for today, like the now. We recently changed it to now instead of today, because sometimes today's stuff is tomorrow's stuff. Yeah. But we just say like stuff that needs like
stat,
right? This is the now stuff. Stat.
Is it an acronym?
I don't know. Now I have to look it up. This is sidebar for stat.
Pull it up, JMO.
I
feel way more official on video.
Immediately. It just instantly. Does mean it's not.
What's the origin?
I'm not going that deep into it. It just means now. So
I know what it means.
Yeah. That's it. Just I don't know. So anywho,
does anybody know?
If you know, reach out to us on. Movie recording has been stopped automatically.
Yo.
That's good. We're going to have to figure that one out. Perfect. All right. So you'll probably hear us cut in. We're still learning how these cameras work, how to make them record for the whole time.
Yeah. Well, we're recording on cameras that we both bought to get high quality pictures of our products.
And now phones have just gotten really good.
Never ever used them.
I used them for a bit when my phone was not as good as my camera, but now my phone is better than my camera. And I don't feel like shelling out money for a camera that's better than my phone.
Well, this camera will make a better picture than your phone.
It will.
If you know how to use it.
Yeah.
I got mine on eBay, started taking pictures with it, realized that I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I can run an iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've never had anybody go, that furniture looks really good, but I wish the picture quality was better. Never had that. So
well, now we've got nice cameras.
It's in the closet, and now we're recording our podcast on DSLR cameras.
We're making it work. All right. Where did I leave off? Oh, the board. So I've got stuff. So instead of that daily planner thing, we kind of move tasks. It's just a running list of stuff that's got to get done. It's stuff that needs to get done now.
Yeah.
Stuff that needs to get done within this week, within a week, and then stuff that has to get done this month. And so stuff is kind of...
So is that kind of the three you have now, week, month?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's been really useful. And we've started color coding a couple things. So like if it's an install, that's in red. If it's like ordering stuff, like I need to order stuff or stuff's coming in.
Red causes stress.
Good. It should.
That's why our generation has such a tough time with stress and anxiety. It's because all of our papers were graded with red pens.
It makes sense.
I made that up.
Okay, I like it. But yeah, we color code stuff for different things. So it's kind of a thing that's working for us now. And that's kind of taking the place of that Franklin planner or whatever. We kind of have an idea of how that goes. And then as far as like my personal time, one thing I did recently was start using this is really more the business side of things. I think it'd be good for the hobbyists too. This
and
app
I didn't
called,
mean for this to be directed solely at a hobbyist.
No, but I know we got a lot of people at different levels.
Trying to start early in the conversation, you know.
I would say that the Calendly app, someone else introduced me to that, a couple people actually, and that's been a game changer for me. So what it does is I can import all my other calendars, personal, business, the one I share with my fiance, and it basically just blocks off that time, says no one can talk to you. No one can set an appointment with you during these times.
Am I in the minority to not have a digital calendar?
Yeah.
I've never had one. I bet I put 6 things a year into my iPhone calendar. And that's like if I have a client meeting or something.
I used to be
I feel like I'm going to forget, but otherwise I just don't.
I used to be kind of like against it. I like the paper calendars. I'm
not against it. I just don't have the discipline's so weird. Because I have a lot of it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to something like a calendar on my iPhone, I don't have it. Like I won't. I'll go in. I'll add that into my calendar when I sit down.
You must just not have enough stuff to do. You know, that's what it is.
It might be it.
Yeah, just need more stuff to do. And then I'm joking, but like that's kind of what happened for me. Is I was just so overrun with stuff, with tasks.
Yeah.
It was kind of the only way to keep myself straight was these planners and finding better ways to mark down what needs to get done, because I was losing things. I was forgetting things weren't getting done. And I do that. I usually work like 10 or 12 hour days because of it. Yeah. And so when I was doing that, I'm like, I'm sitting there going, I don't want to work 10, 12 hour days. Yeah. And I don't want this constant stress. Accepted it. Yeah. And I was just like the constant stress of, and then like the wondering, that feeling of like, am I forgetting something? I feel like I'm forgetting something. What is it? What is that?
There was one thing I was supposed to send out before I left, and I can't for the life of me think of what it was.
Right. And that kind of stuff drives you nuts. And so I kind of just committed to using the calendar. A big help for that was that Sam is religious with her Google Calendar. So she just started putting all of our planned events on there. So it was kind of an easier transition for me to kind of get into it, because she's like, just put your stuff on here so I know what you've got going. Great. So we did that. But I just
feel like I wouldn't hold to any of it.
Well, it's great because now throughout the day, like my phone just tells me like what I have to get done, right? Not everything. It's just like the important, meetings, right, with clients and stuff. I mean, the amount of times where I guess
I don't have near as much of that as you do. I don't.
Right.
You know, I really don't go through near as many clients. Let's run that back at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And just see how many clients we each had.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's a little bit off because I've been pulling off and working on tiny homes quite a bit. But I'm curious to know, because I feel like you're running through a lot more projects than I am over the course of a year.
I would say, yeah.
So that means less quoting. That means less client meetings. That means less deliveries.
And even for one client, I've got a handful of meetings to have with them for the way we're doing things right now, too. I mean, I've got like at least, before the first check hits, I've got at least 3 meetings with them. That's not true. Before the first check hits, I have 1, and then I have 2 or 3 before the next check. But yeah, so I started using that the Calendly app, because it blocks off my time. I don't have to spend my time finding an appointment time that works for them. It says, here's when I'm available, pick a time. And then it allows me to do other stuff that's really cool. I can say like, when I first started using it, there was times I was going to 2 different client sites in the same day. And so I'm going like the Owens Crossroads one day, which is east of us, and Madison later in the day, which is west of us. And by the time I'm done with that, I've lost the whole day, right?
I mean, one trip to Madison, even if you're going to the gas station, it's half a day.
Basically, is what it feels like, right? I'm gonna have to drive 30 minutes there, spend 30 minutes to an hour on site, drive 30 minutes back. That's 2 hours. When I get back, now it's not enough time to get into something. And so I found that this calendar app allows me to do stuff like saying I can make as many event types as I want for like the version I pay for it. It's like $12 a month, completely worth it. I can say like I only do 1 client site visit a day, no more. If someone books me for a client site visit that day, anyone else who wants to see me that day has to wait for another day. I'm only going to do 2 design review meetings in a day. I'm only going to do 3 initial phone calls, right? And even to that end, when someone calls me or sends me an email, and even directly on the website now, there's the booking system there for them to do that. So when I get the first phone call, that's not a cold call that I'm just answering in the middle of doing something else when I'm not fresh and I'm panting from running around and I don't want to miss a phone call. Now I'm not missing a phone call. They just book an appointment. I have all the information I need from their application to kind of go through. It kind of works as a pre-qualifier. If someone can't do that, then
that's a conversation in and of itself. Is the phone rings while you're planing lumber?
Yeah. Do you answer it?
What do you do?
I always answer it.
I always do because it's...
And I regret it so many times.
I mean, it's potential business. So like you feel like you have to answer. You want to answer. Well, you want to stop. You want to give them all your attention and you want to immediately start selling that product. On the flip side, what that means is you have to turn off your dust collector. You've got to turn off your planer. You've got to let the piece finish running through. You've got to set that piece somewhere. You've got to clean your hands off. You've got to get the phone out. And then you can answer it.
Yeah.
That's a big stop work.
Yep.
I mean, and especially on a process like that, there's a long, repetitive process that you're probably tired of doing when you get the phone call.
Yeah.
It's really hard to start that back up.
Yep.
So make sure you have a good voicemail. You know, you can get all the way into it. You can do the virtual receptionist and stuff like that. But at very minimum, have a good voicemail message that says
every phone call
what
matters.
You mean.
Yeah.
No, you know, we all want to say leave your name and number and I'll call you back because that's what answering machines always were. But what we should be saying, and I honestly don't know what mine says right now.
I've been working on recrafting mine.
But you know, my ideal would say, you know, shoot me an email to my email, send me a text, or leave me your name and number and a, you know, brief message and I'll call you back. But email and text are kind of higher priority there because that gives you the ability to read, process, and respond on your own time. I think texting is really gaining some traction in the professional world. I think it has in the last several years, but I feel like it's got a long way to go. I feel like if it was up to me, texting would be just as accessible as calling. If you get on to look at an electrician or a plumber or a cabinet maker or whatever, it should be obvious on the website, business card, or whatever that you can text me.
Yeah.
Because that is honestly, a text or an email is preferable.
Right.
You can keep it. You can keep that correspondence to go back and look and see what you said, what they said. You can both respond on your own time. You don't have to stop everything you're doing to have this conversation. I had this conversation with my dad like yesterday. He said, you and your brother both. He said, you'll be texting me about something. And I'll say, well, this is a phone call conversation because you don't want to type that much on his phone.
I get it. Yeah.
And he said, and then I'll call you and you won't answer. And I said, Dad, it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm sitting down eating dinner, I'll text you back. I'll respond on a text. It takes 5 seconds and I'm not, as long as I'm not being rude. But I'm not going to answer my phone at the table. Okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. So I feel like we still have a little ways to go before kind of everybody jumps on the bandwagon. But if it was up to me, texting would be almost as accessible as calling. You know, when you see a phone number on a website,
Yeah.
I want it to be to the point where we're assuming that we can send a text to that number
Right.
and get the same attention as we would with a phone call.
I find I don't like that completely. I think that text messages have their place. I would say a text message is great for like tactical level stuff. Like, what time are you showing up? I'm on my way. Hey, actually, I was thinking this instead of this, like this color instead of this color, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
I would say for like a first introduction, I would say email or phone is pretty good.
But see, I think on that note, I think that yes, a phone call is preferred
Yeah.
for like that, like to really sit down and talk about it. But if you're gonna like send me something through my contact form, hey, looking for a dining table. We want it 48 by 96. Here's three images online that we liked. If I get that through my website, I would just as much rather get that through a text message.
Sure.
I have no problem with that. Now that will need to be followed up with, okay, roger that. Let's set up a meeting. Let's set up a phone call, Zoom call, whatever.
Yeah.
But for that initial, and that does fall into the tactical, but that initial, hey, I'm interested in your product. I would like to speak to you.
Yeah.
Text me that, email me that. But if you just call me, it still works. We still get there.
Yeah.
But it's preferred to me, and I feel like there's a lot of places in just really any industry that we could benefit by using texting a little bit more.
Well, one thing that I like, so I use Google Voice for my business phone. I like that for a couple of reasons. One, all voicemails are transcribed and sent to me as an email. All text messages are also sent to me as an email, which is great because it makes it searchable. I can go on my email and search things. And that's another good reason why to keep things off phone calls and text or email is better, is because there's a history. I can actually go search back for information. Oh, you said you're going to do this or that, or gosh, what was their address? I don't want to ask them again, kind of thing. And I forgot to write it down somewhere else. Boom, it's all right there. And so that information is really
capture everything.
Yeah, it captures everything, and that's a whole other can of worms.
You should be capturing everything that you can.
Yes.
Period.
Yes. But back to the planning aspect of it, as far as that app goes, one thing that's important to do as far as the time blocking is that white space. That app also allows you to do that. It says, I need 30 minutes before this kind of meeting and 15 minutes after, or little things like that. And so I found that what I'm starting to play with now is looking at more. Before it was, I would kind of start it off by saying, I'm just going to do whatever kind of office stuff between these hours. And I realized that was too regimented, and I had to have more flexibility than that. At least for the way I was.
Because something will come up.
Something comes up.
You need to,
and then throws
you need
me
to
off.
do something that's not in the first hour of the day.
And now I'm in it, and I can't get out of it to go do the other thing I needed to do in the first place. And so what I found is that what I'm starting to learn though is that I can kind of, now that I have a better understanding of my time, and I have a better system to block it out and schedule everything, that I am noticing things like, hey, installs starting on Monday suck. That's awful. Like we're not going to pack up everything Friday and let it wait. We're going to come in Monday. We're not going to get there till 10:30. By the time we get unloaded and start working, we're hungry. It's lunchtime. It's a waste of a day. So I've canceled no installs starting on Mondays. They start on Tuesdays.
I don't do deliveries on Monday.
Right. So installs start on Tuesdays. And I typically don't like this. And then so it's like, so I'm
even
kinda,
if it gives me like a full blank day.
Yeah.
If I'm completely done with the project,
right,
and okay, what day's good next week?
Mm-hmm.
Monday's out. Even if it's like ready to put on the trailer and leave the shop, Monday's out. I don't do it.
And I'm starting to see that Mondays have started to become like, I can book. That's a great day to kind of do my bids, call clients back, let clients, initial contact meetings for me, things like that. Have a client over here for design work, that kind of stuff. And then Fridays are starting to look like that too. But instead of allowing clients to schedule on that day, I'm going to start leaving those days kind of forcibly blank, where no one can really schedule anything on those days. And
I kind of do that with Mondays.
Yeah. And that way, so Monday is kind of my open office day. to kind of and warm up, overflow, get prep for an
I
install.
kind of do that too.
And then Fridays are my just full open day where it's like, it's just a filler, whether I need another day on an install or I need another day of office work, or I have a client who's like, hey, I can really only meet on Fridays and you don't have any Fridays open. I go, okay, that's fine. We can go ahead and schedule it on Friday.
You also get the added benefit of the occasional Monday or Friday when you get to work on something for yourself.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, I have this weird block of time. It's Friday. It's 10 o'clock. I've done everything I needed to do. I delivered that thing yesterday. I don't really want to start the next project. It's hard to shift gears on a Friday.
Right.
So then maybe you need to build an organizer for your drills, or you need to put a couple drawers under your workbench or whatever. Like, if you're leaving yourself those days, most of the time they're going to be filled up with shit you got to do.
Yeah.
But you are going to get the occasional ones. Like, I came in Monday this week and was like, all right, ramping up on the next project. I don't have the lumber in yet. There are things that I can start doing. You know, I was mocking up that chair today out of stock lumber.
Yeah.
I didn't need the lumber order to do that. But then I was like, also there's this dresser sitting here that's been sitting there for, I need to go back and look at my pictures to see easily
A long time.
Easily over a year that this dresser has been sitting waiting on drawer fronts. And I was like, you know what? The shop is back in furniture mode. That was the Friday.
Yeah.
I did the same thing on Friday. It was like, okay, tiny homes are buttoned up.
Yeah.
Friday morning, I had the inspection on the second one. So that buttoned that totally up. So then I had the last half of Friday, and I was like, okay, let's clean up. Let's get back in furniture mode. Put my miter saw back in its station, off the stand, clean up all the bullshit 2x4 offcuts and OSB that's laying around the shop, clean it up, back in furniture mode. Okay, Monday I come in, I'm like, well, I'm ready for the next project. I don't have lumber. This would be a great time to finish that dresser, and my wife will love me so much.
Yeah.
So I had that day. And yeah, I didn't make any money that day because I'm building something for myself. But how much bandwidth was that dresser occupying for the last year? You know, so taking those days that are just a byproduct of going, okay, Mondays are for me and my business.
Yep.
And I just kind of organically have the same approach as you on a Monday. Is I don't schedule really any client meetings. I don't schedule any deliveries. Monday is, and it does tend to be, I might be at my computer all day on Monday.
Yeah.
And that might mean that I don't have to be at my computer that much for the rest of the week. So I guess I'm kind of contradicting a lot of my points, but making the point that it is all organic and you're kind of figuring out what works for you and the flow that works for you. Over the last year, I feel like I've been in a really good spot on everything on this conversation. I don't have a good answer on what to do. I just feel like I've been doing it well, if that makes sense.
It depends on your load too. I mean, if you have and that's different. You know, some people have 10 tasks to do in a day, and that's very manageable. And for some people, that's a nightmare. You know,
and my task load is generally not too heavy. It's just that the shit takes a long time to do.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, inversely, yours, like I said, you've got more meetings, you've got more clients, you've got more projects. Your tasks are generally not as long. Your products come together faster than mine. Yeah. So there's a lot. You know, it's not really comparing apples to apples when you and I are talking about it at this point. When we were first wrestling with it, it
was pretty similar.
But now it's not so much.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the, you know, having an employee, you know, sense, that scheduling stuff becomes ever more important, because I'm not just scheduling my time now. I'm also scheduling someone else's, right? And figuring out how to best use his time.
And if I blow a half a day, I blow a half a day, whatever. Yeah. If you blow a half a day, you're blowing a half a day, and you're also paying somebody for half a day that's not producing. Correct.
Yeah. And so it's, you know, and again, you know, I don't expect him to be working 100% of the time kind of thing, but figuring out how to prioritize stuff where, like, is this a task that I'm doing right now that he can be doing? You know, if not, is it a task he should be doing? that I'm just not letting him do, or he doesn't know how to do? Do I need to train him on how to do this? Or is this a task that really needs to stay with me for now, kind of thing? And those kinds of conversations I have with myself and sometimes with him, hey, is this something you think you can manage? Oh yeah. Oh, okay, great. Now great. It's yours. Take it,
Yeah.
And I would say that I don't think I was great at managing my own time when I started managing someone else's that directly. But that was also a pretty strong forcing function when you got someone going, what do you want me to do? And I go, that's a great question, man. Like, I don't even know.
What do you want me to do?
What do you want me to, you want me to tell you what to, okay, let me think. And there's days that are like that still.
I guess that is my job.
Yeah. There's still some days like that. And luckily Mac is such a go-getter. I mean, that guy's, if he's rarely standing around. If he is, he's probably at least pushing a broom kind of thing. He's awesome.
Also, if he's standing still, he's just kind of vibrating.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not comfortable for him. Yeah. So which is funny enough. I know this, and so when he's like, I think I'm out of stuff. It's nice. I'm like, hey, cut out early. And sometimes it's like I've done such a poor job planning that week. Or there's been a bunch of other stuff where I'm just like, just take the rest of it. Like, take the full 8, get out of here.
Yeah.
Enjoy the day.
Yeah, that's on me.
That's on me. If you can think of something useful to do and you want to be here and do it, that would be great. But I'm so focused on this thing or not on that, and it becomes kind of a dance, and that's only going to get more complicated the more employees I get, and then really setting stuff up. So
you can have all that.
Yeah, and so with one person, with Mac and I, typically instead of doing that planning for the next day pad, we really typically at the end of each day look at the whiteboard, cross things out that got done. Move things over that need to get moved.
With 2 people, like you guys you don't have a together commute. So
Correct.
That wouldn't work.
Right.
So yeah.
And I would say that I'm trying to kind of get it to where like the first 30 minutes of the day and the last 30 minutes of the day are like the me and my employee time kind of thing. Like, hey, do you have any questions about what's going on today? Do you understand anything? Hey, at the end of the day, do you have anything you get stuck on that you couldn't get in touch with me for? Because there's sometimes where I'm like, typically it's an open door to the office, right? I mean, like you could, if it's closed, you could open it. But sometimes I'm like, hey, like don't bother me. Like I got to stay in here and focus. And if you got a problem, figure it out or move on to something else, And so making sure I leave time for that kind of stuff too, of like, hey, did I miss something that was important that you needed to talk to me about? And so, yeah, there's just, I don't know, you got to figure out all the things you got to do and then figure out, it's a big elephant and you just got to figure out a way to eat it one bite at a time in a way that makes sense and be adaptable.
I think hyenas start with the butthole.
That's right. That's where they start. And I think get the worst part over first. I think we could all learn something from hyenas. Yeah.
Look at that. And laugh a lot. Laughter's the best medicine.
That's true. If I'll tell you what, an advanced civilization couldn't have figured out a way to get all the way to Earth from whatever galaxy they came from or planet they came from without good time management. Who knows where they would have ended up?
That's true.
And we got there.
All
right. Well, I guess we're kind of wrapping up on the hour. Thanks for tuning in.
That's all we're gonna give the aliens.
I was just really proud of I thought I really put a bow on it. So I was back when I used to do stand up.
A little bit forced.
It was, but back when I used to do stand up here and there, I was told that even if you got a big long set, if you end on a good one, and you get a good laugh towards the end, just call it. Just be done. You might not get another big one like that.
But we didn't.
I felt really, you know what?
We didn't discuss.
I'm sorry. I tried.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really want to talk about aliens either.
No, I don't really want to get into it beyond the fact that, like,
it's been done.
It's so funny.
It's old.
Government, come tell us that the aliens are real. The aliens are real. Liar.
Yeah. Well, it's also like, it wasn't our government that said it. It was Mexico.
Yes.
And my thing watching, like, the hearing and where they unbox them and everything, I'm going, wait, Mexico has, like, a C-SPAN deal? They have a functioning government?
These have been researched by the University of Mexico, which I was like, is there only the one? I learned...
the University of America.
Yeah. So, I was like, that's interesting. But if there is, they're probably pretty good.
I've seen enough people on TikTok be like, I think I sent you one of them.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, we've seen these things before.
Mm-hmm.
They've actively debunked these exact like critters before.
I'm curious.
So, I don't know.
They'll be like,
I also don't feel like we would give Mexico the opportunity to show the bodies before
American
we
government
did.
comes out there like they're pickled wolverines.
Yeah.
They're kept in permafrost.
But let me show you the real thing.
Yeah, there's definitely there's not. I mean, you know what? They're not real. Those are not real. Move on. You know,
They're not real. The real ones actually are holding political office.
that's right. Yeah. Well, I hope you guys learned something today. I know I did. I don't know. Learning the video thing is weird. I keep on looking at it and just talk directly to the camera. I haven't figured that one out yet.
Also, the hour's short when we're rolling.
Yeah, I know.
On days that we don't have a lot to talk about, or it's just where we're both too spent to do it,
Yeah.
an hour feels right.
Yeah.
But on days where we're rolling, it's like, oh, shoot, we're already done.
Yeah, it does feel like that. But then it's also...
So we're going to be shooting for an hour, and we may have already said it, but we're going to be shooting for like an hour on these because of the editing time.
Yeah,
This is not something that either one of us want to spend a whole lot of our bandwidth on.
Yeah.
So it does take a lot longer to edit the videos, and that's why
It's gone
obviously,
from
if you have
about-
more video to edit, it takes longer to
It's
edit.
gone from about 5 minutes of post-recording effort for audio to about easily 2x the amount of time we were recording. So every hour you listen to us, know that I'm listening to it again, and twice as long to make all the cuts and stuff like that. And hopefully that gets faster. If someone knows about a software that will just AI figure out where to make the camera go, let me know. That would be fantastic.
AI would be the thing. We're running 3 cameras, and
Yeah.
then we got to go through and at any given time in the recording tell it which camera to reference. But if there was an AI that could go, hey, this guy's talking. Okay, let's use his camera.
Take the audio, take the video, and just stick it in the AI machine, and it spits back out a nicely edited, not even perfect, just like good enough.
You could give it a little freedom with like sound effects and stuff.
Yeah. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, that'd be
Or
good.
the drink bell. It's like gong.
Yeah, that'd be good.
It's
Yeah,
like no,
add a
we
drink
just
bell.
wanted a
Ding,
ding.
dong, ding dong. Yeah, that'd be good. So if you know of a good AI auto director for multicam podcast recording, let me know. That'd be great. But
I am excited about the video.
I am
mean,
excited
this
too.
is-
We've changed our backgrounds a
I think
little
this
bit.
is fun.
We
Yeah.
rotated everything
Yep.
90 degrees.
Now I have Anthony's background,
and I have
Anthony
this
has-
brick wall.
First episode, I had the
Air conditioner cord. Yeah,
coming
not
through the
even
wall.
just the cord
Oh, just the
dropping down.
cord.
Yeah, just the cord. It looked like we were in 2 very different. Like you were like in a Soviet prison, and I was in this nice office. You know.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do what we can do, and yeah, well, we appreciate you listening to another episode, and until next time,
Just start cutting wood.
there it is. Goodbye. Do we
I
wave?
don't, I don't think we have to like.
How long do we wave for? Until we can't see them, until they turn around the corner.
Let's wave long enough that everybody has to turn it off and nobody actually finishes it all the way through.
We'll just vamp it. I'll just slowly turn I'll do this. I don't know how to do this in post.
What do you mean vamp it?
It's like audio where it gets quieter
You
to
can
the end of the
just
song.
fade.
Fade.
The fade button.
Okay.